Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. I would like to welcome you guys to the third day of our agribusiness training. And today we are going to be talking all about value chain and business opportunities. I'm just going to go down the list of a few things that we're going to talk about today. One of the things is going to be the value chain explained, also how the agri value chain should work. Also, we're going to go in a little bit more depth about the value chain, introduction to different types of value chain business opportunities, and also mapping out the value chain. But just before that, we're going to start with the icebreaker. Okay, so if you guys can just follow along with me in the YouTube chat box, I want you guys to answer the questions for me, questions 1 and 2. Let's see if we could get the right answers. So for question 1, we have, what did the cow say to the calf who wanted to go shopping at the market? And the second question says, what happened when the farmer crossed a chili pepper, a shovel, and a terrier? So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to answer the questions to see if anybody's going to get the right answer. I don't see any answers as yet. And the answers actually, for one tip, the answers actually has something to do with the lesson today. So let's see. And remember, the lessons today is all about value chains and opportunities. Maybe number 1, maybe moo out the way. No. And number 2, maybe something else. Any guesses? Okay, so for the first answer, what did the cow say to the calf who wanted to go shopping? The answer should be appearing on your screen, and there will be many stops before you get to the market. One of the key things to remember in value chains is there are many different stops in the value chain that add value to your product or the service that you're offering. And so for question number 2, what happened when the farmer crossed a chili with a pepper, a shovel, and a terrier? He got a hot diggity dog. I know you guys like my joke. But okay, so another portion of the value chain is also processing. So being able to find creative ways to process the original product that comes from the farm. So that's our icebreakers for today. Thank you so much and enjoy our lesson for today. I'm going to welcome our coordinator, Silverio Marin.
Hello, good night, Kantisha, and good night, fellow audience. Tonight, I'm going to be presenting today's session on value chains. And for me to do that, let me just quickly share my screen. I hope that you guys have had a chance to review the information that was shared previously with regards to the other session that we had last week. For this week, we're also going to be sharing additional information with regards to the value chain, and we're going to be doing that using the Telegram channel. So for those of you who have not yet subscribed to the channel, I invite you to join us and subscribe so that you can get all the information that you will require to complete the different sections of your Module C canvas. But very well. Going to the session now, we're going to be talking about the value chain. And I'm going to give you a basic introduction to the value chains. And we're also going to talk about the business opportunities that we find when we look at the value chain approach. So in the first part of today's session, we are going to be looking at what is the value chain. And as Kantisha has alluded to with her icebreaker, A value chain is pretty much a chain. It has multiple parts. It takes a process. And so when we look at value chains in essence are simply a model that describes the full range of activities that are required for you to create a product or a service. But it's not only to create the product or service, but it is also to the process that it takes to deliver it to the market. So delivering it to the consumers. So it is the process that you would take from the planning process all the way to the consumer um, enjoying the product that you have developed. Now, and we looked at all the interconnected parts within the relationship between the actors of the value chains. So, to start with, I want you to look at this image that we have on the screen and put yourselves in the position of these people who are looking at something. No, there is something that they are feeling, something that they are very close to, close in proximity, and so they're able to see parts of it. They're able to touch it. They're able to feel it, and we have different ideas of what this image could be. So looking at some of the comments, that are being shared by these people who are feeling this object. We have the gentleman here, I'm pointing to him, he's saying, oh, this is a rope. He's pulling at it and he says, oh, this feels like a rope. And he's very close to it, so he thinks that he is seeing a rope. Then you have the young lady on the ladder, and she's feeling this object. And she's very close to it, so she can't really see what other people are looking at because it's so close to her, and so she sees this as a wall. So she's feeling and she's saying, no, this is not a rope, this is a wall. And then you have the guys on top. They're saying, oh, but this must be a building. Oh, they're sitting on top of this object, but they're very close to it. So they don't know really what it is. They're guessing that this must be a building. And then you have the two gentlemen um, on the right hand side, and one is feeling like this is a spear, and the other one is saying this must be a hose. And so we're wondering, well, what could this be? They all are having different ideas of what this object could be. So there are many perspectives, many ideas. And the same thing happens when we talk about your enterprises and your businesses. You could have a farm, you could have a cooperative, or you could have your small business, and you're very enthusiastic about it. You're very close to it. And so you focus yourself on running your business, on managing it properly, on ensuring that everything is running well and it's profitable. So you're very, very focused. You're very close to your business. And so if you look at the bigger picture, then it will give you a different perspective of what it is that we have in front of us. So here on the slide, you now see what it is that we were looking at. All these different opinions, all these different ideas of what this thing was, what this object was, resulted to all be false. But these people are looking at an animal. They are looking at a creature. It's an elephant. It's a huge elephant. And so this comes to show that whenever we work with each other, we communicate with each other, we share our different ideas, then we can formulate what the bigger picture is all about. And so the working together here is the key element that would lead us to understand the bigger picture. And so we have to recognize who our partners are, because we have to look at who is looking at this thing as well, who is involved in trying to determine what it is that we're looking at. And then we communicate with each other. And so we then determine who our partners would be in trying to resolve the issue, or trying to bring a product to the market, or trying to really formulate um, the bigger picture of the business. All right. So this is thinking about the bigger picture, the key element there to recognize partners and to communicate amongst yourselves. Now, why do I start with this image of the elephant, and why is this relevant to the value chain approach? Well, it is relevant to the value chain approach because when we look at the value chain, we in essence are looking at the supply chain. And when we're looking at the supply chain, for whatever product or service that you're creating, as the name implies, it is a chain. So there are multiple players, there are multiple links that make up this chain. And as you will see in the diagram, we have here that in a food supply chain, you have the producers. Yeah, these are the people who are farming the land, who are toiling the soil, and who are producing the raw products. Then the, the crop production process, once it is finalized, can then move to maybe um, animal production, food animals that are produced, like cattle that can be produced. And you see there that the corn could then be used to actually feed the cows, and then other remnants can also be used for maybe seafood production. um, then you have the workers that are involved, you have the environment, you have the sun right there that is required. So there are multiple players, there are multiple elements within the value chain. And I go back to that analogy that Kantisha shared with her icebreaker. It is a lot of steps. There are a lot of links within the chain. And so it is important to be able to understand what it is that is involved in our value chains. So, for example, if you have a small business and maybe you are in this position here where you're running a small business, you might want to understand how you get the raw products that you're selling. And then you want to be able to understand who it is that you're selling to and what it is that they're doing. And then you might ask, well, why should I be interested in what people are going to be doing with the product that I'm selling? Well, if you understand their needs, you can then better position your product, you can better position your service, and then it is going to ensure that you're satisfying that need that is created or that is required by the people demanding your product or service. So you're going to be able to create a better product, a better service for your business and for the consumer. And likewise, you need to understand how the product that you're selling is actually produced. Because if there is any delay in production or any delay in the supply of that product, then you need to be able to adjust because the market will not stop demanding the product. So, for example, if you consider that you are a retailer of mangoes, for example, and you are maybe selling mangoes to an ice cream maker. The ice cream maker wants to have mangoes all year round. Yeah, he requires a pulp to make his ice cream, and you are buying the mangoes and you're creating pulp. But if you do not understand that mangoes are seasonal, then you will find out that while you're producing, you're running out of supply, right? Because when mangoes are out of season, then you won't be able to get them. So it's important to understand the production aspect as well, how you get your raw products. And so that will allow you to better plan your business, to better organize it, because you will say, hey, no, I need storage for these mangoes. So I'm going to pulp the mangoes and then I'm going to put them on storage. And so I will be able to have a year-round supply for me to sell to the ice cream makers. And so that very briefly helps you to understand the relationships that are forward and backward of wherever you are in the food supply chain, right? So now to a less chaotic um, chain. Now, something very summarized is what you can see in this diagram. So there are several functions that are part of a value chain. Yeah. And so, as I was mentioning, we start from the production process. So production is one of the first elements. It is actually the first element and the first link within the value chain. Yeah? This is where seeds are produced. This is where the raw products are produced. After that, the raw product moves to aggregation. Yeah? So this is the bringing together of the products, which would then move on to processing. After processing, we would move on to distribution and marketing. And through the distribution mechanism and through the marketing outlets, the product or the service would then reach to the consumer. So this, in essence, is the value chain. This section here in the middle is what we consider the value chain. Now, the value chain does not exist on its own. Yeah. So we have that value chains are existent. All products or all services have a value chain. They may not be very well developed, or they may be in the process of developing, or they may be very well integrated, but they do not exist in isolation. Value chains usually have support services. And the support services, which you will see at the bottom, are simply the external elements that provide some type of assistance to allow for the value chain to work. For example, um, there can be services that are provided by the government. For example, licenses. There are certain incentives that are also provided to allow for the system, for the value chain to flow. So, for example, if you're importing your packaging material, then you would need a license to be able to import that packaging material because you have to determine the type of plastic or the type um, of material that you're actually going to bringing into the country. And so that will go through a process that is going to be provided by one of the support services. You also have entities locally like Beltrade who assist in the marketing of the product. You also have BMDC who also they import raw products and they also do some marketing. Yeah, so they are all part of what we call the support services. We have the Ministry of Agriculture, you have BAHA, and you have other elements. These could also be from the private sector um, who may have created their own support services. For example, I know that in the north, we have extension service that is provided by the different associations. So the associations have their own support service to help the farmers produce. Now, it's not only the actors who are carrying out these functions and the support processes that make up the value chain, but the value chain exists within an environment. And that environment is usually called the enabling environment. The enabling environment is simply that general space where this business can function. And the enabling environment entails the different policies, the governance mechanisms that are maybe not at the reach of the individual players, but that do affect the business flow. So, for example, there are policies that are established by the different ministries that then would facilitate the establishment of a business or the establishment of an industry. So, those are elements that also help to regulate. There are specific laws that are created to help to govern the different mechanisms. You have the Labor Department there who also has laws, no, to help to ensure that there is fair treatment of the individuals within the value chain. So that makes also part of the enabling environment. So very quickly, that is a summary of what a value chain is and its different components. Now, I have an example here for you. Okay. I have this example of a coffee value chain. So we're looking at a coffee value chain, so the production of coffee um, that is carried out. And how do we start the production of coffee? Well, we have to start by growing the trees, right? And so we start right here at the top. So we're growing the trees. We have the farmers who are the key actors here, who own the land or who lease the land and are growing their coffee. Then, when the coffee beans are ready, we have the harvesting that takes place. So we have the farmers, and sometimes the farmers are going to employ other people from within the community to come and help them in the harvesting process. And so that is the second link. We have people who are growing it, then more people who get to harvest the product, um, and then it moves on to processing. One of the key elements here is that at each of these steps, each of these links, each of these functions adds value to the product. So if you ask for the price of the tree, then the tree may not be that valuable to someone who wants coffee, right? At the coffee shop, or to someone who wants to actually mill, right? So if I'm investing in a mill, I don't really want to be growing the trees. I want to be milling the coffee. So they have an intrinsic value here that is important and that will grow throughout the system. So in the harvesting process, because you have to hire more people and they come and they collect the coffee beans, then the beans has higher value now because it's all been collected. They're off the tree, no? So you don't have to go and pick it yourself. So you will pay an additional fee because it has been picked. And then in the processing, there are several steps for coffee in the processing. And the first thing there is the selection. So you go about selecting, and the selection process is part of processing, and then this helps to add value. Why? Because by separating the seeds, those that are of better quality than those that may be a little bit damaged, then you can sell them at different prices. Yeah, and you can get a higher return for those of higher quality. And so you're adding value by separating a simple process, right? By separating the coffee beans. Thereafter, you move to the drying process, yeah? Because the fresh bean will have a price, but then if you dry it, then the coffee bean will get a higher price, right? Because it has undergone the process that allows it to be safe for milling or ready for milling. It can be transported safely, it can be stored safely, and so it has a higher value. And so once it has been purchased from the farmer and it has been processed, selected, and dried, then it can be milled. Yes. Now here you can this exporting um, process can happen at either um, of the sections of the value chain. It can happen directly after drying, or it can happen after milling. No, it really depends on the amount of value that the farmer wants to add. Of course, the more value that you add, the more returns you get. No? So it is better if you're able to sell a processed product than selling the raw product. So in milling, then you get the coffee bean that is ready to be exported. And so in the exporting process, you're adding value because you're bringing it closer to those who will be utilizing the product. So by exporting, you're adding value as well. So it's not only the shipping costs that you're adding, it's not only the brokerage costs that are implied, but also the beans have gained a higher value because now they are much closer to the location where they're going to be utilized. Yeah? And so they have appreciated in value. Then the export from the exporting process, it moves on to roasting. So we have to get it ready because people won't consume the raw milled product, right? So the coffee has to be roasted. Otherwise, it can't be consumed the way that we are used to. And so when we're roasting it, we're adding value because you, as the consumer, would not purchase the fresh produce. Yeah, you would not go and purchase the fresh produce for you to make your coffee, right? And you would also not go to a mill to buy your coffee, but rather you want to buy it from someone who has already packaged and branded the product. And usually it would be a roasted product. Yeah. And here, when you are packaging and you're branding your product, then you're moving it off the commodity market. So now here you're adding a higher value, right? So it's a very different product than what we started with, right? Remember we started with the trees, the coffee trees, and now we have a beautifully packaged coffee product. Yes. And now you can add even more value to this process when you use the mechanism of certification and branding. Yeah. So if you add branding to your product, the brand itself has value. And so that value can be added to the product. So if you're selling, for example, an organic product, then you can sell that organic product to a niche market that is going to be willing to pay a lot more. Why? Why do you get more money for the organic product? Well, you won't get more money if you just decide to sell anywhere, yeah, because people who do not recognize the value of organic, they would not be willing to pay for it. But if you know your market, if you are able to find out who the people are who are interested in those specific quality standards, if you're able to identify that link in the market that is very interested in that type of coffee that comes from a very specific region in the world and that is very unique, that has a very unique smell, taste, then you can add a lot more value and you can get a lot more returns for that specific product, right? And that is then how that product would reach to the consumers. Yeah, and then the consumer would be willing to pay for that product because the consumer is not buying a tree. Yeah, they are not going to be drinking tea, right? They're not going to be drinking coffee tea, but rather they're going to be actually drinking their coffee. And so, for that product to have arrived into that market, it must have undergone this entire process. Now, all products, all services are part of a value chain, or they are part of a supply chain at least. And the supply chain is very simple. In the supply chain, you are really working with pricing, but in value chain, you are working with something more intrinsic, more something that is more at recognizing quality, at recognizing specific factors that would add to just the satisfaction of the need, right? It satisfies other senses of the product. But very well. So we go back to this little map, the summarized map that we had shown before. And I ask you, where do you fit in this value chain map? Are you a producer? Are you an aggregator? Are you a processor? Are you a distributor? Or are you doing marketing? Are you adding value? Are you packaging? Or are you retailing to the consumers? Yeah? Or are you a consumer? Yeah? So think about it. Think about where your business or where your business idea fits within the value chain. And remember that big, big picture diagram with the elephant? So think about your business and then remove yourself, walk a little bit away from the business, and think about who all are involved in this value chain that you are a part of. So if you are a producer, I see John Arana is saying he's a producer. All right, but what are you producing? Are you producing what you want, or are you producing what the consumer wants? Because if you're producing something that you are passionate about and that you care for, and nobody else cares for it, then we don't have a market. Yeah. And so we won't have an efficient chain. So here, if you're a producer, you have to think about who you're selling to. And not only who you're selling to, but what it is that they are doing with the product. Because if they're processing it, then it might be that you require a specific type of product for you to process. I know, for example, that not all coconuts are the same. Huh? There was a time when I thought that all coconuts were equal, but apparently not. No? So if you are, for example, a coconut producer, and you want to expand your farm, you have to think about who it is that you're going to sell your product to. If you're selling it to someone who is going to be making coconut water, or if you yourself want to produce that product as coconut water, then there is a specific variety of coconuts that you will utilize. And you should plant then that specific product. Or if you're going to be selling to a processor who is going to then be making coconut oil, then that is a different variety of coconuts that you're going to require. And because it's a different variety of coconuts, then you need to plant that specific type of coconut, right? We had an example in the previous work that was done here in Belize with tilapia. And there are two varieties of tilapia that are produced here in Belize. We have the gray tilapia and we have the red tilapia. Yeah, they are appealing to very different markets. So we recognize that the Asian community likes the red tilapia more, and they're willing to pay more. So if you're able to recognize who it is that you're going to sell to, then you can buy those specific seedlings, no, for your red tilapia and produce the red tilapia that will then reach to that specific market. Because if you go and you want to sell them the gray tilapia, they might buy it, but that is not what they really want. But more so, they would be willing to pay more for the product that they actually want. So that is what we have to look at when we are considering the value chain. And when we consider where it is that we fit within the value chain. It is important to know who our partners are, who are the other actors within the different links of our value chain. And remember, if you have a product, it has a value chain. You just have to think about who you buy from, who you sell to, and who they sell to. Very well. Well, that was a quick summary. And now we will look at the value chain business opportunities. Yeah. And so when we talk about the business opportunity, here is where we want to capitalize on things that we would recognize from analyzing the value chain. So remember, I've told you that we have to think about who all are involved in this value chain, who are part of this system that we have as part of our business. Well, in recognizing the business opportunities, we need to identify the key problems within the value chain. Yeah, because the value chains are not as pretty as I have placed them on the slide. Yeah, there are many things that are happening. There are moving parts all the time. And like any chain, there might be weak links, there might be missing links, there might be links that are not well fitted. And so you have to recognize those. And by you being able to recognize it, then you're able to address them and provide a mechanism that is going to enable the chain to function properly. But of course, you want to be paid for that job, right? And that is what we do uh, with the value chain approach. Yeah, when you think about the business that you are creating, and when you think about where you fall within the value chain, when you think about where your business, what part of the value chain your business is a part of, then think about what is working properly and think about what is not working properly within the supply chain. Yeah. And so here we have three steps for us to take, for us to reach to the business opportunity. So we have to do what we call problem framing. So initially, the problems might seem like this, chaotic. And think about the example that I gave you with the coffee uh, value chain. Imagine that the consumer, you're wanting a specific type of coffee. The farmer is producing a different type. The person processing doesn't know how to process, or there's no processor. And imagine that you want your coffee to be here tomorrow morning for before you go to work, and then you don't have any roasted coffee available because there's no roaster, or that the roasting machine is not working, and imagine all these things happening all at the same time. And that becomes very chaotic, right? But if we start thinking about the individual links and we think about the producer, how can the producer be better? What is his problem? Does he have enough supply? Is he producing the right varieties? Yeah. Is it that he has other ailments that are affecting his production? Maybe there might be some problem within the farm that you can help to resolve. And the farmer would be willing to pay you to help him to resolve that problem, or that you can make money by resolving that problem. Because if there's not enough supply, I mean, you can plant more, then you are going to get an income from that, right? So it is important for you to think about the specific roles within the value chain. Think about the different functions and think about the fulfillment of those needs. Think about, is the current situation the most ideal? Can it be enhanced? And then how can it be enhanced? And then that leads us to our second step, which is the problem analysis. So when we say, okay, this chain is not really working well, so what is the problem? Yeah. So if we have a dark room and you want to shed some light to the problem, you have to start thinking about what is causing this problem. So if you are out in the store and you don't find the coffee that you're looking for, that is a problem. Yeah. But what is the real cause of the product not being on the store shelf? Is it that the retailer did not buy enough supply, or the retailer was not offered that product? Is it that the distributor did not bring that product? Is it that the distributor could not find the product? Is it that the producer is not producing that product? Yeah? So you have to think about what is the root cause of the problem. And once we have the root cause, then we go on to the third step, which is the problem solving. So here we actually start developing what is the business opportunity, right? We say, aha, so there is no truck to bring the product to the market. So how will the farmer reach the market? No? So if the farmer is in Toledo and the market is in Cayo, and then there is no one to bring the product from Toledo to Cayo, then we are missing something. No, the problem is the transportation. And maybe you can establish a business, a freight company that can bring that product to the market. No? Or you can go and look for the product and bring it to the market, and you are adding value because you're moving it closer to the market. And so you get a return on that investment. Very well. So that is how we do the problem analysis. No? That is the concept. Now, when you're doing your problem analysis, you will find that there are three possibilities. These are the most common. There might be other issues with the value chain, but there are three key ones. The first one is that there might be a missing link. There might be, as I mentioned in the example before, that there is no transportation. So I have an example there that says the farmer produce fresh produce or products, but do not have a means to transport the produce to the market. And this is the example that I had given you before with the coffee producers, um, or any producer who is not able to bring the product to where it is desired. That then is a problem, right? And then we have to think about how we solve that problem. That missing link is not only a problem, but it is also a business opportunity. Now, another problem that we might find within a value chain is that there might be a very weak link. So I have an example here that people like to eat rice and beans, but not enough beans is being produced. So not enough rice and beans is available in the market to satisfy the consumer's needs, right? And so we find here that there is a weakness within the chain. Yeah? And as it said, the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And so this weak link is a problem, but also, apart from it being a problem, it is also a business opportunity, because you can strengthen it. So in this example where you say not enough beans is being produced, well, maybe we can help the farmer expand his production. Yeah? And how can he expand? So what are going to be the business opportunities there? Maybe you can supply him more seeds, so you can become a trader of seeds. Or you can also become a farmer. You can plant more beans as well. Yeah. Once you know the varieties that are required, then you can plant it yourself as well. Or you can even import beans. I wouldn't encourage that because we're promoting buying local and producing local, but certainly it is one of those opportunities that is there to strengthen that link. It may also be at any part of the chain. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the production part. The weakness can lie maybe in the processing. For example, if you like a specific processed product, but there are not enough processing facilities in the country, then you might want to consider that it is a possible venture for you, right? So here we want to identify what is the problem and then try to strengthen it, right? If we're talking about um, the weakest link. And yeah, I see Egbert is saying that yes, import should be the last option. Absolutely, I agree with you. It should be the last option, but it is also something that we have to consider that at times it is necessary, right? We have to be very real with ourselves when we're talking about business. Remember, this is money that you're investing, and it is money that you want to be returned um, in higher volumes. Very well. The other, the other possible um, issue that you might find with the chain is that it might be a broken link. That means that it existed, but it is not there anymore. So I have an example here. It says soft drinks were sold in schools, but the new Ministry of Health policy prevents soft drinks high in sugars to be sold in school cafeterias to prevent obesity in young people. Yeah. So this is a chain that existed here, and now the chain is broken. Yeah. It could be broken either because of regulations, as the example would have, or maybe something happened to the processor and he decided to move to a different country, or he decided that it is not profitable for him, so he went out of business. Something happens and one of the links breaks. Now, apart from this being a problem, it is also a business opportunity because you can come in and fill up that link. No? And so these are the three main types of problems that you will encounter: either a missing link, a weak link, or a broken link. But remember that here you want to understand the problem. This is about understanding what it is that you're dealing with. So remember the image with the people there standing very close to the elephant, and they could not tell what it was. It is because they were too close. They were too close to the elephant and they could not determine what it was, and they were not talking to each other. So if they take a step back and they communicate with each other, they can identify, they can look at the bigger picture, they can identify what it is that they're dealing with, and they can identify which of the actors can be strengthened. Yeah. So this is what we say leveraging the problem. Yeah. So leveraging the problem can result in a stronger value chain that benefits everyone. When you're talking about the value chain, here we have to be cognizant that it is a work in unity, because when one link does well, it moves the entire chain. It means that all the other chains are doing well as well. Yeah. So if the market is pulling the link that is closest to it, then that link is going to pull the other one, and the other one is going to pull the first one, and that way the whole chain will flow, right? So remember that if you want to be effective in a value chain, then you have to know your partners. You have to know the actors that are also part of this value chain. And this is where we come to say that leveraging is actually converting the problem to a business opportunity, because there is a gap, there is an element there that we can come into and that we can support. And so we want to be able to do that, to enhance the chain. And here, then, as you see in the image, yeah, that is the business opportunity. The business opportunity lies where consumers' need is not being met. And so you step in with your business to actually satisfy that market need, satisfy that need from the consumers that was previously not met. Yeah. So, as the example has it there with the people that do not have enough beans, I already told you what the solutions there might be. Either provide them with more seeds, you can plant more yourself, or you can encourage other farmers to plant, and then you can bring it to the market, you know. So those are the kinds of things that you will want to think about. Remember, it is not only about having an idea of what you want to do as a business. It is um, one, you want to ensure that you understand what you're dealing with, yeah, what you're stepping into, and who are your partners, you know, and what are their needs, and because they will be your market, yeah, and you will be a market for them as well. So you want to be able to understand both sides of the chain that you are a part of. Very well. And that's the end of my presentation. I want to thank you for being an excellent audience. I see that we have some people commenting there. Very well, but I will now turn it over to Precious. Precious is going to be entertaining the questions um, for tonight along with myself.
Good night, everyone. Tonight was very informative. Severio did an amazing job, and I hope that you all learned something. So, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to please post it in the chat. I've also sent the link to the Telegram group, so you can also drop your questions there and we look forward to answering them. I see a few persons have already left some questions. Egbert, how can we deal with excess farmers' products? Laura Chan, how do we certify our products as organic and or gluten-free? And so we will most definitely be responding to you because, you know, we are here not just so you can learn, but also so that we can respond to your questions because we want you to be successful in this incubator. So drop your questions in the chat. Don't be shy. Don't be shy because none of us bite.
So, Precious, I see that Egbert has left a question. How can we deal with the excess farmers' product? And here, think about what we just saw. No, the excess produce is the problem, right? So how do we convert that problem into a solution, into a business opportunity? So if we have excess produce, it means that we have supply for perhaps a different product. So can we have to think about, are we able to export this product to a different market, move it to a different location, or do we want to process it? Yeah. Or do you want to do something different with the product? So you have to really think about the possibilities and you have to analyze those possibilities because exporting may not be that easy to start with, simply because there are export requirements from our local authorities and also from the receiving countries. They have different regulations that govern the import and export of produce. So you want to make yourself or you want to become acquainted with these regulations and you have to then explore the options. But if you have a product that is in excess, the excess is not really a problem. Remember, we can always turn a problem into a business opportunity.
I just want to add to what Silverio just said. And I want you guys to like really think when we talk about excess products, think of something that could be an excess. Let's look at, say, guavas. So let's say the farmer, there's so much guavas. You get guavas, you get guavas, everybody get guavas. Now, what could you do with guavas? One, we know that guava is a fruit. But why not, let's say, we take it to the next level and we look at persons that are in the manufacturing business to turn guava into, let's say, a beauty product, meaning that it can now go into soaps, now go into candles. And so, where you would have seen guavas, you may be thinking about it saying that, okay, guava is just a fruit, maybe it's only good for juices. Now you can shift that and say, you know what, let's take the guava product. There's so much of it. And now let's look at a different market that can benefit from it. And we can go into beauty products. So you get candles, you get soap, you get face wash that's infused with guava. And so that's how you can think outside of the box when you're looking at excess farmers product. Okay.
Excellent, Precious, indeed. And that's value addition.
All right, so we have another question. Is the incubator supporting raw materials producers? And will we be able to submit existing business plan to review and get feedback to see how it needs to be tailored and edited to suit this program? That is coming from Andrea Banner.
Okay, the raw material producer, right? Here we're looking um, at the different opportunities and the different potential that the different business ideas will have. So we do have a criteria that we're going to be sharing with you later on. Um, and that criteria then is going to define the type of business that we want to support. Very important for you to consider is what we saw last week with the impact. That is going to be a key element of the businesses that we want to support. Those businesses that have an impact to the society or to the environment are the kind of businesses that we are looking for.
And let me just add to Andrea's second question about submitting existing business plans for review. Yes, that is, you most definitely can do that. That's what the incubator, that's what we're here for, to support you guys and to, so that you guys can come out on top and be the best at what you're trying to do. All right. I want you guys to ask some more questions. Don't be shy. I know it's late at night, but listen, we are here for you. Let me see if there's any more in the chat. Okay. I don't see any other new questions. So what I'm going to
Hello.
go on, Severio.
Yes, Precious, sorry to interrupt. I was going to say that we can probably share the link to our Telegram chat
Yes.
group and to the channel, that is. And remember to subscribe so that you can continue to receive the additional information that we will be sharing with regards to value chains and business opportunities. Remember, it's not only tonight's session that we're going to have available for you, but we also have additional material that you would be receiving as we go along throughout the week. For those of you who have already subscribed, you know that you have been receiving some more information. You have ebooks that have been shared, you have some videos, you have a podcast with the beautiful voice of Precious, who has helped us there to develop the podcast. And so more of that is going to be shared with you.
Okay, so I've posted the link to the Telegram chat. And like I say, please feel free to ask all of your questions. In addition to that, I am posting the link to the Google Classrooms. There is a lot of amazing content there to help you when we are not live. And so when you're on your own time, I encourage each and every one of you to go through the classroom and review the content, play it back, because it is definitely there to help you. And so whenever you need your support, we're all here for you.
All right, any other questions, guys? If you do have any other question that comes up, maybe while you are reviewing the video again, or that you are reviewing the content that we are sharing later on, you can always write to us via the Telegram chat. Yeah, please write in the Telegram channel so that we can respond to your questions. Um, and then we are going to be able to provide you with the necessary feedback that you require. You can also email us, and you have there the email address here at the bottom of the screen. It's agri.incubator@agriculture.gov.bz, or you can give us a call, at the different offices and the different numbers that are posted there. Yes, Precious.
One last thing, do not forget to sign the attendance form. It is very important so that we know who is here and who has been able to attend. The attendance link has been posted in the chat. If you have any challenges filling it out, please do not hesitate to let us know. Like I said, we're all here for you guys. And that's all I have to say for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed an amazing, informative session led none other by Silverio. And we're all looking forward to our next session, which will be on January 5th, led by yours truly. And I can't wait to be there for you guys. So see you then.
Alrighty, all the best, everyone. Thank you for coming